7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I now call to order the meeting of the Affordable Housing Committee. It is Monday, June 1. We are starting a little late for a 5 o'clock meeting. We have 3 items before us. I will start with asking for someone to make our electronic meeting motion. I will read it, and then if someone will move it, that would be very helpful.
Councilmember, can we actually get a roll call first?
You need the roll call before that, excuse me. Yes, let's start with raising hands if you are on the committee. And I will ask Mr. Cooper to tell me if he's got the roll call, and then we'll move to the reading of the electronic plans.
I don't see where they raised my hand.
If things are working right, it's in the lower right-hand corner, or if you just want to let us know that you're...
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Also how you get recognized to make motions.
Yeah, I just didn't see it for some reason.
It's very small. All right, has everyone had a chance to note your presence at the meeting? Mr. Cooper, do you have them all?
Yes, I have Allen, Suarez, Sepulveda, Welsh, King, Sledge, Mendez, Hauser, and I think I'm missing one more, Taylor. So we do have a quorum.
Taylor? Yeah, great. And we have Parker. Thank you. Just checking. Okay. With that, I will move to reading the electronic order. Pursuant to Governor Lee's Executive Order number 16 regarding electronic meetings, as extended by Executive Order number 34, I make a motion this committee meeting agenda constitutes essential business of the Metropolitan Council, and that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. Do I have a motion? Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That motion is recommended. With that, we'll move on to our resolutions to consider. First up is Resolution RS 2020-338, sponsors to Mendez and Allen. This authorizes the Metro Development and Housing Agency to negotiate and enter into a pilot agreement and accept payments in lieu of ad valorem taxes with respect to a multifamily housing project located at 2996 Dickerson Pike, known as Skyliner. Councilmember Toombs, do you want to move the amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, the amendment.
Okay. And do we need an explanation for the amendment, or did everyone hear that during budget? You want to give a quick explanation?
The amendment, it's a housekeeping amendment that makes some corrections to a couple of calculations.
Okay, with regard to how much capacity we have left. Okay, do I have a motion on the amendment and a second? Any discussion? Seeing no hand, oops. Councilmember Suarez, your hand raised on this, or is that left over?
That is left over, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Seeing no other hands in the queue, all those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? All right, bill is recommended. And Councilmember Toombs, if you want to explain the bill as amended, as the resolution as amended, excuse me.
Sure. So this is a development on Dickerson Pike. It's 147 affordable units, ranging from efficiency apartments to 3-bedroom apartments. There was a community meeting held this past week, and so there was a lot of support for it. And this is an opportunity to have some affordable units in the area as the Dickerson North Corridor continues to develop and grow. That the committee approve it.
Very much. And do we have Mr. Wiltshire on the line just to briefly explain the whole pilot for low-income housing tax credit properties in general?
Yes, I am on, and I believe that I'm unmuted now. Can everybody hear me?
We can hear you. We can even see you.
How about that?
How about that?
So first off, I see a couple of folks who were in the courthouse, and I hope that everything is okay and safe there. I'm really sad about what happened yesterday, but glad the business is continuing. Quickly on the low-income housing tax credit abatement, this is an abatement for projects that receive low-income housing tax credits from THDA that provide effectively equity for projects in exchange for the projects having units available for individuals who make typically 60% of area median income or less. There is a provision included in this project that allows those projects to use something called income averaging, which means that individuals making up to 80% would qualify for particular and units. But for every, effectively, the overall average, 80% or less. So use simple math, for everyone making 80, you'd have to have someone making 40 or less in order to bring the average below 60. But the overall project provides these tax credits to projects that provide affordable housing for individuals, again, between 60 and less, or in a few cases above that, of area median income.
Great, thank you for that explanation. And I think we might have a person or two who needs to mute, so people will check. That would be helpful. Are there any other questions on this? Seeing no hands, all those in favor of the resolution as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, resolution is recommended. Thank you. Next is RS 2020-339, sponsors Van Rees, Mendez, and Allen. This authorizes the Metro Development and Housing Agency to negotiate and enter into a pilot agreement and accept payments in lieu of ad valorem taxes with respect to a multifamily housing project located at 808 and 820 Skyline Ridge Drive, known as 808 at Skyline Ridge Drive. And Councilmember Van Rees, I see you at the ready. We will ask for a member of the committee to move the amendment, and then I would love for you to explain the amendment and then the bill as amended. So do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Van Rees.
Thank you for that. Just to reiterate, and I know that a lot of folks that were on the call earlier for budget and finance, but others that may be just tuning in or listening to this later, this particular project, known as 808 at Skyline Ridge, is directly across the street from Music City Solar and is at the former rear entrance and now main entrance to the emergency room at HCA Skyline Hospital on Skyline Ridge. We had an informative and vibrant conversation with community during the SP process on this project, and it is being built in accordance to those conversations. If you want to do your due diligence to look at the former SP, you'll see an amendment to it that indicates that not only are they making sure that these apartments are mixed income, affordable, available at affordable rates, but also pledging to $100,000 for historic restoration of a historic cemetery, and for some of that money to go towards the pocket park, which I've been working with the folks at HCA Hospital on a public-private opportunity in the next few years. They also are doing a number of different improvements on infrastructure. This is a road that used to be called Old Due West Avenue, now known as Skyline Ridge. And it was just a back road and had not received any improvements. But now that more activity is happening between Due West and Dickerson Pike, there's an opportunity to activate this area. They will be spending about $1.3 million on these improvements, including a widening of the road all the way to Dickerson Pike, a 4-foot curb and gutter planting strip all the way down to Dickerson Pike, 5-foot sidewalks to Dickerson Pike, 2 crosswalks, pedestrian flashers at the crosswalks, street trees along the frontage, The right of way for all the neighboring properties is for them as well. I believe, Ms. Hauser, you need to mute. So those are some of the things that they're doing above and beyond. I know that there were some questions regarding this at the other meeting, and I've been able to get some answers, and I believe MDHA is ready to answer those questions as well. But I wanted to make sure that these that I said out loud all those additional improvements because it's what the community was so excited about. And I wanted to make sure that they knew that in exchange for some of these tax abatements, that they're getting above and beyond what they anticipated. So with that, I welcome any questions.
Great, thank you. So first we need to vote on the amendment, and I'm not sure that we actually officially moved it. So can I have somebody move that again and second the amendment?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Sawara. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
There you go. All right. Okay, great. So the amendment, which again is simply some changes to the capacity overall for our funding of these pilots, has been moved and seconded. If there's no more discussion on the amendment, I will call for the vote on the amendment. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Passes. Now I need a motion of the bill as at the resolution as amended.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Thank you for that good explanation, Councilmember Reese. Are there any further questions? Councilmember Sawara, is that a new hand raise or?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you.
And I want to thank you, Chair. And it's because Councilmember Byron Reese alluded to the conversation in the other meeting. And I know there's some new people that joined this conversation, so I wanted to basically reiterate what that was. And the question is not so much particularly for this project itself, it's not questioning the project's assessment, but basically on a general basis on how the abatement percentage is derived. And so my question in that meeting was that we had one that was at 44%, and we had this one at 94%, and I was just curious as to what goes into that determination. Mr. Wilshire is welcome to say what he said again, but I think more than anything, the conversation is that there will be metrics that will be submitted to committee members, and that there will be further conversation to understand how that work out. And I'm glad to follow that conversation offline, but it's just to understand how we'll come to one being 44 and the other being 94. That was the conversation.
Thank you. I think that's an important question. Mr. Wiltshire, do you have any new explanation that you can add, or have we gotten Mr. Kane access to the conversation yet?
I do have a little bit of new information.
Great.
I don't believe that Mr. Kane is on, but having the benefit of an hour or so to do the homework that I should have done in advance of the Budget and Finance meeting, I did pull up some additional information about the project. And as I stated in the Budget and Finance Committee, because I assume some of those members are not on this call, we will submit a written response tomorrow. But two additional data points. The first is that the pilot payment, essentially the property tax payment effectively, that this project will be making is in line with other low-income housing tax credit projects. It's a more expensive project. So there's a greater abatement because the value of the property will be more significant. That will, of course, provide benefit to Metro in future years when the abatement rolls off and there's just a more valuable piece of property here generating property tax revenue when it comes onto the tax rolls in a full way. But the actual payment that they're making is equivalent to other 4% low-income housing tax credit projects that have been done to date. The other note about why there was such a significantly lower abatement for the project, and these are confusing because one is Skyliner and the other is 808 Skyline, for the project in Councilwoman Toombs's district, is that project actually received $2 million of Barnes funding. And so the amount of operating abatements needed to make the deal pencil was lesser because they effectively had, I don't want to say free money, but had additional equity that they weren't having to contribute from investors in that project. And so that's the reason that project had a lower abatement amount. Again, highlighting the fact that we're trying to get as much affordable housing for as little abatement so we can continue to generate additional revenues for Metro, in addition to providing the affordable housing that we so importantly need. And then Councilperson Van Rees went through a whole host of other benefits that are coming through this project in particular that we think justify the pilot payment that is being proposed in this project. I'm giving you a lot of information. It'll be written so that you can review it, and we welcome the opportunity to have this conversation with all the members whenever your schedule permits.
Great, thank you. We appreciate that. And you'll make that available to Mr. Cooper, who will give it to all the council members. So thank you for that. Great. Any other questions on that? Seeing no other hands raised, we are ready to vote on the bill as amended. The resolution as amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, resolution is recommended. Thank you for that good discussion. Finally, resolution RS 2020-340 sponsors Mendez and Allen. This authorizes the Metro Mayor to submit substantial amendment to and the 2020-2021 annual update to the 2018-2023 Consolidated Plan for Housing and Community Development to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And I have a letter from the sponsor to approve. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? I think we have Mr. Emil Alexander on the line, perhaps, who can give us a little bit of information on what the consolidated plan is, if you're still there. Or if Mr. Alexander's left, Mr. Wiltshire, do you want to?
I'll do my best to perform a stand-in for Mr. Alexander. Essentially, there is a 5-year consolidated plan that lays out the spending priorities for CDBG, Community Development Block Grant, ESG, Emergency Services Grants, HOPWA, Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, grant funding that flows from the Department of Housing and Urban Development through MDHA and goes out as grants, some of which quite frankly comes to Metro government, but other amounts go to nonprofits. And so it is a statutory requirement. Mel has repeatedly pointed out to me that there are 904 regulations from HUD on how these dollars can be spent. And so there's a process. One of those requirements is that this plan be submitted to council, approved by the local jurisdiction. And so that's what is being considered. This is really just an update to the plan. It has to be approved each year. And this is year 3 of the 5-year plan.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Seeing no hands raised, we're ready for the vote. All those in favor of RS 2020-340, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution is recommended. That concludes our business, and we are adjourned, and we will go straight into Public Works, which begins now. And Mr. Bird, if you can figure out how to pass me